Okay, that's clear. But the coin aspect of it may cause inflation because of the way our people think. Now, our people believe that, some people actually said, oh, we've grown past coins, we've moved ahead of coins. In fact, we cannot be going back again, we have to go forward. When they have not gone past coins in the Europe, where the coin and note system was introduced into Nigeria. In America, they still use their coin. And we must bring coins in. Any central bank governor, whether this one or whoever will come after him, must think about currency management expenses. That is a core function you must think about. And you must think about reducing the currency management expenses. If you don't, then you're not doing your job. You're kidding. Okay, therefore, and in order to manage your currency very well and reduce that expense, what you need to do is to find one way or the other to bring in the coins. So and my killer argument for that is this: bringing in 5,000 will not cause inflation, nor will it cause corruption. Equally, if we decide today,
well, maybe not cause, but aid.
Oh, just a minute. Okay, we even aid. Even if we decide today that we're cancelling 1,000 naira, which is the biggest denomination, we're cancelling 500, and we're cancelling 200, and the highest denomination Nigerians will spend will be 100 naira, will it reduce corruption? Will corrupt people stop being corrupt because there's no 1,000 naira to spend? No, they won't. Will it reduce inflation? No. In fact, the operational argument, and I'll say this, and that's for now, so I won't waste much of the time. Okay, the operational argument, in the operational economic argument on this issue, is what is called the self-fulfilling prophecy. There will be inflation because we pundits have said there will be inflation, even though we were wrong. In currency, in currency management, in fact, in currency crisis, there are three schools of thought. They are what they call the three generations of currency crisis. And this is not economic theory. This is empirical evidence. The first generation says that if you fix your currency, if you want to maintain a fixed currency rate, that people will move against you, speculators will move against you, and you cannot hold that rate. First generation. Second generation is what's called a self-fulfilling prophecy. That if everybody is speculating that the currency will be devalued and will fall,
it will.
It will, because somebody will make that move first and say, they said this thing will fall. In the same vein, if you say that there will be inflation, even though there should not be inflation or corruption, and we proliferate this idea, and the bus driver hears you, then he decides that they've brought in 5,000, the 30 naira fare becomes 50 naira because who wants to collect coins? See, it's this arrogance that we must deal with as a people. Okay, we have not grown past coins, and we should not grow past coins. I know Nigerians, we go abroad, okay? We go abroad, and when I'm going abroad, I first take all the coins of that country that I didn't spend the last time. I put it in my pocket. And so we must get to that point, because this central bank said, and the central bank has the best information than anybody or any organization in this regard, that according to what they have seen, they are spending for the same 40 billion anyway every year printing the currency. Okay, so quickly, if they can save just 5 or 10 billion by restructuring, I would say we should be patient, and then subject to some education.
Mr. Boyer, if we want to move forward now, in terms of the autonomy of the CBN, what do you think we should be doing to safeguard the autonomy but still have this accountability and transparency?
Checks and balances. The
checks and balances required. Well, very, very quickly, because we've got very limited time, maybe 2-3 points.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. There would need, obviously, be a requirement for, there would need to be a requirement for legislative approval of some of the policies, especially when it relates to debt accumulation. There would need to be also a much more transparent explanation of CBN's monetary policies, an explanation as to why it has to lend at 12% and borrow at 15%, as to why the naira, for example, has to depreciate when we earn more dollars. It should be the other way around. As to why, in spite of all its efforts, the monetary policy rate remains at 12% and consequently crowds the real sector out of the market. A situation where real sector has to borrow at 30% while you're talking of full employment, creating employment for the masses. These are all contradictions, and central bank has a role to explain why it pursues this kind of what I would call destructive, poisonous policies, because they have neither created work, neither has it brought down prices. As earlier said, whether it's a question of stabilizing or growing the economy, the important thing is that the central bank should not have all the powers in the world to be able to spend our money or commit us to indebtedness ad infinitum.
Okay, so Mr. Anwani,
Mani.
you are in charge of research and advocacy. From all of what you have done with your research and the information you've gathered, what's the thought amongst the members of chambers of commerce and industry and business in Nigeria? What's their thought in terms of solution rather than the problem?
Okay, our thought is very, very simple. But before I mention that, I want to say that even if you give central bank all of the autonomy in the world, like Argentina did, we remember the crisis, Argentina central bank crisis in 2010. Even when the governor at a point, the governor of central bank refused to vacate office after being sacked by the president, and all of those. But a country like Brazil that doesn't have, where the CBN doesn't have autonomy, is well managed, no intervention. So what we think at Lagos Chamber of Commerce is for us to look for a tailor-made model for ourselves as a nation. We have to copy very well and bring it back home and adapt it to our culture and our realities with time. That is our position. And like I said before, I'm not subscribing to my friend's idea that central bank have to rush down and they spend all their policies. Why is the interest at 12%? And let me correct. Today, CBN borrows to bank at 10%, not 12%.
And borrows at?
And the borrowing rate is floating.
Yeah,
the
NPR
treasury
is what?
NPR is 12%.
Exactly.
NPR
is the rate at which the central bank lends to the banks, yeah?
Plus or minus
no,
two.
there's a corridor. There's a corridor.
Plus or minus
There's a
two.
corridor, plus or minus 2.
So it could be 14%.
No.
Corridor.
Yeah,
It's punitive. It's punitive against the banks. So
Exactly.
It's
I'm not-
supposed to make them come less to the CBN. to
Exactly.
borrow.
But
They
if
should
you
manage
have a
their
situation
affairs
where they
better.
can borrow
Liquidity,
at a cheaper
Cheap,
rate
cheap,
and
yeah.
yet have somebody to come back to them and
borrow
that's
another discussion. But
that's
what we're trying to say is that instead of having the CBN to rush to the legislators
Legislature.
all of the time and all because of the bureaucracy and everything, everybody's an economist.
Yeah.
Get a representation, restructure or firm up the corporate governance of CBN. At this point, we are now beginning to ask ourselves, the chairmanship, all over the world, the chairman of the board of CBN is the central bank governor. In our case, should the CBN continue to be the chairman of that board? These are tailor-made questions we have to ask ourselves and get somebody from the legislature, which is the voice of the people, to
You're not by any chance proposing
exactly,
that we
to sit
should
at that
have.
board.
You're not by any chance proposing that we should have somebody else apart from the CBN governor as chairman of the board of CBN.
I say we should look at.
We should look at it.
that. We are still discussing.
All right.
And again, the easiness of the central bank to intervene when there is economic crisis. We have to look at that. What happened tomorrow? How long will it take him to go and brief the Senate and the executive and get out this money? These are the issues. Okay, what type of fund do we create? And you begin to give a ceiling. If your intervention is going to be more than this, you report to the board. If it's going to be more than this ceiling, you report. So that's why I say copy, but adapt.
Okay, all right. Let's, as part of wrapping up, let's go very quickly to Abuja and talk to Senator Adetunbi. Now, as far as the National Assembly, because not just the Senate now, because there is vested interest in this by the House itself. Now, as part of what the National Assembly is thinking, what are the solutions that you will say amongst your colleagues in the National Assembly? What are the solutions being preferred for this that Nigerians can swallow without thinking that the National Assembly wants to have an oversight function over and above what the presidency has over the CBN?
I think I need to correct some impressions here. the parliament is not asking to be the central bank. It has no skills to do that. The parliament is not saying that the central bank should not be independent or autonomous. It already is. And don't forget, the act that governs the activities of the central bank was enacted by the parliament. What I think the National Assembly is saying is that we have to increase the mechanisms that makes the activities and decisions of the central bank that affects the generality of the people and the economy to be more accountable, more transparent, and less imperial. I think this is the issue on the table, and we must not lose focus of that. The parliament is not saying that the central bank should run to and fro the National Assembly to seek retail approvals for monetary policy decisions. That's not the argument. The act establishing it already gives it powers to do that. So the issue here is, how can we increase public participation and accountability and reporting in the activities of the central bank that has, popular influence and impact on the well-being of the people?
So
that is a concern
sorry, Senator.
Of the
Senator.
parliament. Let me say this in closing. That
very quickly, Senator, very quickly, just because we will need to wrap up now. What do you think? Yes, Senator, what are the solutions that the National Assembly putting on the table in terms of way forward? Because we need to wrap up now. What are the solutions? 1, 2, 3 things that you think must be done and how it will be implemented?
the first thing is increase in oversight.